What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Bulls Deep Fishing. Hope everyone is having a wonderful, wonderful day. It is an absolute gorgeous day here in my hometown of Dawsonville, Georgia, and I'm out in the garage and I'm getting my puppy, my gorgeous, just absolutely dead gorgeous FEELFREE lure 11.5, ready for this big weekend. I got a big weekend planned, hopefully a lot of fishing. Then next weekend I head on over to Lake Hartwell and hopefully gonna slay some bass, all types of bass next weekend. So I'm really looking forward to that. So I'm kind of starting to get everything set up, getting everything ready. But last week when I was out on the lake, I noticed there was some binding on my rudder cables whenever my rudder cables entered my 8-ball steering. So I gave FEELFREE a call. I picked their brains a little bit and see what's the best way to fix that binding and those fraying cables. And basically they said just replace the cables in your rudder and make sure they're tight in the back, and then also they are connected correctly in the 8-ball, and then you should be good to go. So basically I had them send me some cables and everything I need to basically remove my old cables and reinstall these new cables on the FEELFREE with the 8-ball steering. I've seen a lot of questions and a lot of people ask, how to do this, how long it takes, so on and so forth on social media. So I figured I would attempt to shoot this up and get some good footage of it. Keep in mind, guys, I only have one camera. It's literally on a tripod. I'm not going to get a lot of good, shots of it, but I'm kind of basically going to take it step by step of what needs to be done, how to do it, and then I'm basically going to step away, do it, and then come back and, okay, what's the next step, so on and so forth. So I'm hoping and praying that this is going to help those people that are having trouble rigging up the new 8-ball system on the FEELFREE, and then also really with any steering system or any rudder cables to teach them how to run the new cables. I'm not very good at this. I'm going to tell you that. I can rig boats out to the max, deck them out, but when it comes to rudders and so on and so forth, that's one thing I'm trying to learn more about. So we're going to learn it together, guys. So basically, let me get everything set up. The only thing you're going to need really for this install today is going to be the new rudder cables or the rudder lines from the 8-ball to the rudder. You're going to need an electric drill, some wire cutters, and then some hand drill. I'm mainly dealing with Allen wrenches today and star bits. But keep in mind, guys, whenever you use an electric drill on a kite, you've got to keep in mind you don't want to overdo it with the electric drill, because you'll either strip your holes out, you'll strip the bolts or whatever you're trying to put in, because I've did it before. So basically my best suggestion is to basically get it started with the drill and then put the drill down and then finish it off, hand tighten all the way with your hand tool, no matter if it's an Allen wrench, Phillips head, flathead, whatever it might be. So that's basically all you're going to need. I have already broken down my 8-ball, but basically all you have to do is, and it might be able to better show you whenever I'm putting the 8-ball back together, but it's basically, 5 or 6 Allen wrench screws that are attached to the 8-ball, and it kind of comes apart in 2 pieces. And then once you get those 2 pieces apart, there's a little pin that holds the longer bolt into it. You just remove that pin, and then the bolt will slide out, and then kind of everything will unfold itself or undo itself. So that's kind of where I'm at now. So let me get everything back set up. Oh, and another thing you are going to need, if you don't have your Allen wrenches I don't have a lot of Allen wrenches. I don't really use a lot of Allen wrenches. You are going to need your tools that FEELFREE sent you whenever you bought your boat. If not, it's basically just an Allen wrench and another wrench. So that's all it is. But let me get everything set up, and like I said, I'll do my best to try to show you how to do this. So let's get right into it, guys. All right, guys, so after you dismantle or take apart the 8-ball steering, as you can see on mine, you see that rudder cable. Not sure if you can see it very well. Mine was starting to fray, and that's kind of what I'm fixing today. Once you dismantle the 8-ball steering, you're basically, this is where you're going to do all the work in that. Attaching the new rudders into here and then running them back through the boat. But the first thing you're going to need to do is to remove those cables that are in there. So basically, they do have little caps on the back of the rudder. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut those caps off of that line, and then basically I'm going to feed my line back to me. Some people feed it the other way, but I feel like this is going to be easier for me, so I'm going to cut those 2 clips off the back and then I'm gonna pull that wire all the way back through my boat, and then where I can feed my new wire through. So that's my next step, and that's what I'm gonna do. Let's do it. All right, guys, so you may have to loosen up the bolt that holds that rudder with an Allen wrench. It's just if you got your feel-free tools that they sent you with your boat, it's just a smaller Allen wrench. I'm not sure what size it is, but you're basically just gonna loosen the top nut on the top of where the line goes into the top of the rudder. You're gonna loosen those up to where you can basically pull that rudder line freely through on both ends. So basically you'll just loosen these two bolts. And what I'm gonna do is, then I'm gonna take my wire cutters and I'm gonna cut these little caps that are on the end of the rudder. I'm gonna cut them straight off where I ain't gonna try to figure. Guys, so I have cut off those little caps that are on the end of the rudder lines, and so now I'm gonna basically pull that rudder line back towards the 8-ball. Not sure if this is the correct way or not, but I feel like this is gonna be the easiest way for me to basically do it this way, then basically repeat those steps to put it all back together. You see these two, the two plastic hoses that cover that metal rudder cable. I'm basically gonna tape those in place and then pull, well, no, that bolt's holding it, so I'm not gonna tape them in place. But basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go right back here where the rudder lines enter the boat, and I'm gonna start pulling them from there. Then I can see them in the back where they're coming back in through the boat. And you might wanna tape the end of those rudder lines just where nothing else frays inside your boat, so on and so forth. So that's what I'm gonna do now. So once I pull those lines out, I'll get back with you. All right, guys, check this out. So this was the problem with my rudder cable. You see all that's twisted all up in there. It's supposed to be smooth like it is down here, but if you noticed, all that has unraveled itself. And nothing against the product or anything, that's just how, you know, steel cables work sometimes. So that seems to be what the problem was. That's what was causing it to bind and not steer properly. So hopefully new cables won't do that. So I got the rudders all removed, the old rudder lines removed. I'm opening up my new rudder lines. I'm basically just going through it, see if there's any defects already in the cord, because I don't want to sit here and do the complete install and then have the same problem again. So basically I'm just unraveling it pretty slowly, making sure there's nothing wrong with it. And I'm basically going to straighten these things all the way out to see if there is any memory left in them from when it's been packaged. I don't want that memory to be going through my boat and then causing it to bind up again. So just taking it apart fairly slowly. And that one's pretty much straight as an arrow. So once you get these, and there's two of them because we took away two, we got to add two more in. And they're pretty, I mean, they're laid out just the same way. They are taped on the end. So basically once we get these ran back through the boat and slide them back through the rudder, we can put those other clips on the end of it to keep them from pulling out. But whenever I do this, whenever you're running a rudder cable, you want to run it very, very slow because you don't want it to get kinked up inside your boat. Then that's just going to be a pain in the butt to try to pull back out, so on and so forth. So I'm going to do it very, very slow. But keep in mind, guys, this cable runs through your 8-ball, okay? So whenever you're running the new cable lines, make sure you're running them through the holes in the 8-ball first, because you don't want to run this line all the way back there and then crap, you forgot to run it through the 8-ball. So make sure you do that. I've seen where a few people forgot to do that and they have to pull it all the way back out and then basically run it all the way back through. So I'm basically just going to run it through the two holes and then run it all the way back through my boat. Alright guys, so as you can see, I've successfully ran my rudder cables back through to my boat. For the most part, it was very, very easy because the way FEELFREE makes their boats and their rudder lines running out, there's actually a tube that runs all the way from where you enter the boat in the back or near the 8-ball steering. There's tubes that run all the way through back to the back hole. So basically, you just feed these through very slowly, and eventually they'll just pop out the back and you're ready to rock and roll. But I feel like this is going to be a key point. You do not want to cut these, attach these until you are completely finished installing the rudder cables at the 8-ball, which we're about to do now. Because if there's any extra slack or anything like that, you don't want to go ahead and cut these because you might need to pull some slack back or backwards or forwards. So you want to keep these open. You don't want to pull them back through the boat, but you want to keep these open in the back until you're finished installing the 8-ball up front. So that's what we're going to do now. So I'm going to leave these two alone. I'm probably going to put some tape right around these holes, so if I do start pulling line, I don't pull it too fast and it pulls my cable back out. So keep that in mind. Do not attach these to your rudder until the very end. Alright guys, so as you can see, I'm back up here at my 8-ball, and I'm about to insert these pins into this round disc that goes into the 8-ball. This is where it's going to get very, very tricky. You can see on the back of the disc, if you can see, there's 3 holes. 1, 2, 3. Okay, you're not going to use this single hole from what I've learned from FEELFREE. I will attach a picture in the somewhere in this video of or at this clip showing the 2 pins are going to drop in these 2 holes on the right side. And so basically, once you drop that in, drop those pins into that side, you're going to run 1 cable around the disc and out of your 8-ball, and then you're going to run the other cable all the way around this disc and back out the back of the 8-ball, whatever you want to call it. So that's basically what I'm doing now. This is going to be a very tedious and tricky part, so it might be a little bit lengthy. I'll try to speed it up, or I might just cut it out and then, kind of go forward with it from there. So let's get to it. All right, guys, so whenever you're attaching your rudder cables with the pins into the disc, this is how it's going to look, okay? You see how these 2 holes are covered up by those 2 pins? If you flip around on the other side, I don't know if y'all can see or not, I have 1 pin running directly out the back of the 8-ball, and then this other pin, you have to fit it in the groove, then you have to run the cable all the way around the disc back out to the 8-ball. So basically what I'm going to do now is I'm going to build the 8-ball back, or put the 8-ball all back together. Hopefully I don't miss no parts, because it's a pretty in-depth invention or in-depth device, so I don't want to miss nothing. But I'm basically going to do it piece by piece back to where it needs to go. Alright guys, whenever you're feeding this disc back into the 8-ball, make sure you don't crimp up or tighten up these cables, because you don't want them to bind up back into your 8-ball. So you got to be very careful running them, putting that disc, sliding that disc back in. You see how it works? Just slide that disc back in very slowly where you don't crimp up none of those rudder cables. The next step is going to be putting the smaller, I don't know what these are going to be called, but the smaller grooved gear. There we go, a smaller grooved gear. It's going to drop in the top of that disc that you just installed, okay? There's a little square insert that you just drop that disc into, and it's very greasy, so just keep that in mind. It's going to be pretty difficult. And then you'll notice whenever you're taking your 8-ball apart, there's going to be a metal pin that goes back up through the bottom of the disc, up through that other groove or that other gear, and that's just going to that's basically going to act as the axle to turn that gear where it doesn't bind up or anything like that. So this is the tricky part. Keep in mind, guys. And the way this is going to sit, if I remember correctly, this is your other part of your 8-ball, okay? It's going to slide up under that disc to hold it tight, and where those two gears meet, and then it's going to slide straight back up in there. And keep in mind, guys, on the bottom of this disc, where that bolt is, or where that metal piece is, there is a groove in the bottom of your other part of your 8-ball that's gonna, sorry, I'm trying not to drop it, that bolt is gonna sit into. I don't know if you can see that little hole or not. You probably can't. Maybe if I hit it just right. There's a little hole right there that metal piece is gonna sit into. So you got to be careful that you set the piece of metal back into that groove correctly, because that can bind up your whole 8-ball. Alright guys, so I was focusing too much on this cover right here. It's easier if you pull this cover down, just hanging on the cables, and get that pin, that top pin, to set down in that bottom hole, that second base. Because that's key, because that acts, as you can see, that acts as the axle to turn your 8-ball. Okay, but keep in mind, guys, you do not want to bunch up these cables. That's going to cause a bigger issue. So basically, I'm going to slide it back over the cover, and now you're sitting flush with everything right here. So I'm going to slide my longer bolt back through that marries these two together. I'm going to slide it right straight back through. And then your 8-ball is pretty much put back together with the new steering cables in. So basically what I'm gonna do now is untangle my cables. All right guys, so I got it all back together. My lines, they weren't tangled. I just had the 8-ball turned all the way around. So I got it all put back together. Then you're gonna slide that pin back into your drive that marries those two pieces together. Just like that. All right, and then I'm gonna get all my slack out of my lines. I'm gonna push them back through. And this is where, for me, it was a little bit tricky, okay? Attaching this back onto the 8-ball mechanism itself. As you can see, it's almost like a starport gear that drops it down into. And that's not necessarily the hard part. The hard part of it is right down here. There's a little pin. Actually, it'll be easier for you to see it. There's a little hole in this bolt. Yeah, you can see it perfect right there. Once you get this steering back into the 8-ball, you got to slide a little pin through there to prevent it from pulling out. And they say at FEELFREE, if you do lose that pin, it's not going to prevent it from working. But I don't like to lose pieces, especially in a turning mechanism. So, and it's a little bit tricky how you have to get it back on. It's almost like a starport. It drops right in. But then you got to fit that pin under that bolt to try to get it to fit back up in there. And from what I've learned, and I'm going to try this, and I don't know if it's going to work, there is a little groove, and you cannot see that whatsoever. There's a little groove for that pin to set into, but I'm actually going to turn that bolt just a hair to have that pin sitting on top of the plastic where it prevents it even better from, or prevents it even more from pulling this bolt out. So that's basically what I'm doing now. It just takes a little bit of time. I had to get some tweezers because it's such a small piece and there's not a lot of room. You had to get some tweezers to kind of drop it back into place. So that's what I'm going to do now, guys. And the little pin, and I'll show you the little pin. Oh, my hands are so greasy. It's literally a tiny little pin that fits down in there. You see how mine's a little bit bent, so you got to kind of straighten that back out and where it will fit back into that hole. So that's what I'm going to do now. All right, guys, so I got my pin back set into that bolt. And so basically now, oh, it's starting to fall. You got to be very careful. I lost this thing about 4 times, so you just got to be real careful with it because you will lose it. You're just going to put the cap or the little bushing that goes in that little groove back in. And you see there's a little cutout for that bolt to fit into, or that little pin to fit into. You kind of just got to get it in that little sweet spot, and it'll drop down on itself. Then you're just going to attach your little nut back to the front of it, your tension nut. And from what I've read, and I'll need to verify this, but because I've noticed when I'm out on the water, turning the 8-ball, it does come a little bit loose, this nut. So just keep that in mind whenever you're out on the water, to keep checking, because your hand's right there next to it. Just keep checking it and make sure it's not loosened up, because I would hate to lose this knob in the middle of a tournament or on the water. That'd just be absolutely terrible. So that's pretty much it. That's your 8-ball put back in place. So basically now what I'm going to do is I'm going to feed the rest of this slack of this rudder cable back out the back. I'm going to trim it down, and then I'm going to basically reattach the rudder to the reattach the cables to the rudder and tighten them down, make sure that the steering is correct. So that's what I'm going to do now. All right, guys. Forgot a key part before we go back to the rudder. You have to reattach or rescrew in the screws that hold your 8-ball together. There's about 8 total that go around the 8-ball itself, but keep in mind there is 2 on the bottom that you need to attach first, and then you can attach your 8-ball back onto the boat. Then you can zap the other 6 or 8 screws into the 8-ball. So that's what I'm going to do now. Completely forgot about that part. So yeah, that's it. Let's do it. All right, guys, so I put my 8-ball. Man, that glare is just terrible. So I put my 8-ball steering back in place, and basically they do tape the end of these rudder cables just for easier feeding through the hole. But you got to remove this tape before you slide them back in through this hole to get it all the way, where you can start tightening your rudder, so on and so forth. All right, guys, so once I ran the cord or the rudder cables back through the rudder and I tightened down that pin to keep that rudder tight, The easiest way for me, and I'm not good at tightening rudders or really, because I haven't did them a lot. I got into a little bit of whenever they used to be ran by paracord or some type of cord, but not the metal cables. So that was a little bit new for me. I know my way around them, but I'm just not very good at, I get kind of confused whenever I'm trying to tighten it. But I figure out the easiest way, thanks to my boy Fletch Griffin over at Westbrook. If you put your 8-ball steering in the neutral position, okay, and put your rudder in the back at the neutral position, pull those two cables tight, then tighten those screws down, you're good to go. Now, it works flawlessly. So much more smoother. I mean, I could not be happier. I'm super thrilled. I'm actually going to try to go hit the water right now, just give it a little test run. But, guys, that's pretty much it. And obviously, when you're back there, after you run the cables through the rudder, you cut off the slack line. I kept about 2 inches of rudder line behind that just in case something does happen, or if I want to loosen it or anything like that, I have a little bit of room to play with. Then I just put those little caps back on, crimped them down, and it's not going nowhere. That just acts as a little bit extra insurance where those rudder cables don't pull. Because over time, your rudder cable might stretch out a little bit, so you may have to do a little bit of adjustment. But for the most part, guys, that's it. It's a wrap for the reinstallation of the rudder cables with the 8-ball steering, guys. Please let me know if you like this video. Please let me know if it was helpful for you. Please comment in the comment section below, or send me a DM or a message on Facebook or YouTube or Instagram if you have any questions. Because it was a little bit confusing, learning how to break down the 8-ball and really how all the components go back together. That was the most confusing part. Running the cables was very easy. Tightening them down was very easy. Just the whole 8-ball, the configuration and the mechanism inside, that was a little bit confusing for me. But I'm actually thrilled that everything worked on the first go. Usually with me, I have to take a couple times and basically redo it all in one time. But, I really did my research and I really learned how the 8-ball steering worked before I did everything. So that helped me out a lot, guys. But definitely, guys, please let me know if you have any questions. If you want to see me break down the 8-ball from start to finish versus, building it back, please let me know that as well. Once you know what screws to take out, it's very, very easy to learn how to break it all down and how it all comes apart. I'm hoping and praying this helps out a lot, because literally the last week on the FEELFREE page and just on the KBF page and just DIY pages, that people that have the FEELFREE and the new 8-ball steering, because if you don't know, FEELFREE is, they had the old steering whenever they first came out with the overdrive, and they're switching everything over to the 8-ball steering because it's a better device and a better function inside of it. So a lot of people have a lot of questions on how long did it take to do the 8-ball configuration or 8-ball install on your FEELFREE, so on and so forth. If you have any questions on how to do it or anything like that, please let me know, guys. And also, Joe and Elliot up at FEELFREE, you just give them a call, and they 99% of the time pick up on the first time, and they will answer your questions. I called Elliot probably 4 times, just making sure I'm doing the right thing, making sure, I understand it fully, and they are very, great with working with you and understanding how everything goes. I will attach their phone number in either this video or in the description box below, just in case you need that. But guys, please reach out to me and let me know what you think. If you don't mind, please, if you like this stuff, please smash that like button. If you didn't like this stuff, leave a comment in the comment section below what I can do better, because I'm always trying to adapt and overcome and learn, to better, edit videos and better shoot videos. So that's very helpful for me. And then also, guys, please head on over to my Instagram page at Bulls Deep Fishing on Instagram, Bulls Deep Fishing on Facebook. I will have pictures. That's where my day-to-day stuff happens. So if you don't mind, please go over there, like those pages. That really helps me out and helps me. I'm trying to build my following, reach more people, because I feel like, some of the stuff I did is very, very helpful. And another thing, guys, I know this is kind of a tail end, and I know it's getting to a long video, but I woke up late last night. My boys were sick. I ended up getting on the couch as they got in bed with my wife, and I noticed I got a notification on one of my videos of a comment, and so I wanted to respond immediately. But I noticed on that one video, I did not see hardly any of those comments pop up whenever they were initially commented. Some of them were a year old, so I blasted people last night, replying to comments, and I'm sure they already had their questions answered. But sometimes it's easier for me if you go on over to Facebook and Instagram and message me there those questions. That is so much more helpful. I can get to them a whole lot faster, and I see them because that little notification does not go away. So definitely go over there and do that, guys. And guys, thank y'all so much for watching. Thank y'all for letting me do this. Thank y'all to my subscribers for sticking with me throughout this long. I got some more cool stuff coming up on the Feel Free Lure, and then also next weekend when I'm on Hartwell. So I really think y'all enjoy it, guys. But stay tuned, stay classy. It's going to be a blast. If you're out there fishing, I'm jealous. If you're out there fishing, I'm jealous. If you ain't in the same boat as me, guys, stay classy, keep them tight lines. Deuces.